Well, good evening and welcome to the Board of Education meeting for Greeley Evans School District 6. On this, the 22nd day of March 2021, this meeting will now come to order. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Crane, will you call the roll for us, please?
Mr. Hafley? Mrs. Mash?
Present.
Mr. Matthews?
Present.
Mrs. Mueller?
Present.
Ms. Pappas?
Present.
Mrs. Solis?
Present.
Mr. Talley?
Present.
6 members present.
Thank you, Ms. Crane. Well, today our students finally, some of our high school students finally returned for the first time in a year to school with the entirety of their classmates, with Greeley Central returning in person today with all of our students. It was great to see. We've gotten great reports from students and from teachers already. Greeley West and Northridge will return fully in person next week, and this is just a wonderful sign for where our community is. We are still holding steady, Greeley and Evans, at a 4.37% positivity rate, and this appears to be, by the looks of things, going to be a great spring for us. One of the significant challenges for returning high school students is that we need to run more bus routes. And so we are in need of bus drivers to drive those bus routes. And we have an upcoming event on April 10th. That's on a Saturday. It's from 10 to 2 at Monfort Elementary. If you are interested in driving a bus, if you know someone who's interested in driving a bus, please get in touch with us. You can check out our Facebook page or our website and find all the details for that. We want to thank our state and our Governor Polis for holding our funding steady, school district funding steady, even though we are missing students. I don't know if everyone is aware, but we are missing nationwide somewhere around 3 million students, which is concerning. That there were 3 million students in the United States who were in school last year who were not in school this year, and we honestly don't know where all those students are. In our district, that number is about 600, and we've been searching for them all year. But we're very thankful to the state for not penalizing our school districts for losing students and holding that funding steady. Finally tonight, we have 2 students who have received the prestigious Daniels Scholarship, and that is Alexandria Joy Sherman Sutton of Greeley Central and Jovan Adrian Quinones of Greeley West. And this is an incredibly prestigious scholarship. More than 2,000 students applied for this year, and most years it's in the thousands of students who apply for the Daniels Scholarship. And over the past 15 years, 103 District 6 students have received this scholarship. So congratulations to our 2 newest Daniels Scholars. Those are all my announcements. We're to the public participation regarding our agenda items. And Ms. Crane, I don't believe we have anybody signed up for this portion of public participation.
That's good.
So, Ms. Crane, will you give us a roll call, or not a roll call, but a work session report, please?
Board of Education President Michael Matthews began the work session with comments and updates from board members, and then proceeded to review the calendar of upcoming events and meeting dates. The board discussed community engagement, which concluded the work session.
Thank you, Ms. Crane. We're now to our superintendent's report. So, Dr. Pilch, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, President Matthews. I'll kick off where you talked a little bit about legislation around the decision to hold our funding stable. There's just a lot that we're watching that's happening down at the state level right now. Many of you may have heard that the state testing the Colorado measures of academic success, the legislators have approved to allow a limited version of state testing, so we won't test every subject at every grade level that we've tested in the past, which will significantly limit the testing and allow us thereby to capitalize on that additional time for instructional time. This does still require approval by the federal government for a waiver, but we're hopeful that this is a good compromise for still getting data on our students at every grade level, but also being able to maintain that additional time for instruction. Other legislation we're watching, there's some legislation around school resource officers in schools. So we're watching that piece of legislation. As I know that we have decided as a board and a team here that we gain far more by having school resource officers in our schools and the work that they do and the training that they have than by not having them. And I know I appreciate the relationship with both our municipalities around school resource officers. So one of my reminders to a lobbyist I visited with today is that, what might be good for the Denver metro area is not necessarily the right fit for school districts in northern Colorado, and particularly for schools in Greeley and Evans. And that goes for some other legislation that we're watching out there as well. Our legal counsel, Nate Fall, is out today and tomorrow, so he will not provide you with a legislative update tonight, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of good news, or at least some news to share, and hopefully good news when we come back with Nate next time around. As you said, President Matthews, it's so good to have all of those high school students back at Greeley Central High School, with the exception of students who have remained online. I know that there was some trepidation about that among some of our students and staff and families, and the day has gone well, and it's great to have them back. And kudos to Greeley Central High School for stepping out there and being the first one to bring students back. And that will be followed very quickly here next Monday with Greeley West and Northridge High School bringing their students back 4 days a week. So we're excited about that. And then finally, just a little shout out to the Greeley Art Commission. Every year they commission this coloring book to be created that is a coloring book of local art to celebrate the local art here in Greeley and Evans. And then this coloring book is given to every third grader. And the intent behind it really is that, third graders will get the coloring book. They'll not only color and answer the questions that are in here, but also that out in the community, they will look for this artwork and hopefully increase their appreciation and enjoyment of the art here in our community. So thank you very much to the Greeley Art Commission for supporting our students and promoting the arts here in our community. Thank you, President Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Pilch. Well, to move forward, we need to approve an agenda for tonight. So if someone would be so kind as to make a motion.
I move that the Board of Education of Greeley Evans School District 6 approves the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you both. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, Ms. Crane, will you give us a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Mash?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Ms. Pappas?
Aye.
Mrs. Mueller?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Crane. Our next item is to approve our consent agenda. And just to remind everyone, our consent agenda, or the items that we've agreed beforehand, don't need comment or discussion from us. They're generally routine matters. And we'll need a motion to proceed.
I moved it. Go ahead.
I move that the Board of Education of Greeley Evans School District 6 approves items as presented on the consent agenda and authorizes the officers to sign any and all contracts.
Second.
Thank you both. Any discussion on our consent agenda? Hearing none, Ms. Crane.
Mrs. Mash?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Mueller?
Aye.
Ms. Pappas?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Crane. Well, we have some special recognitions tonight, and the first is our Classified Employee of the Year. And so, Dr. Pilch, I'll hand this portion of the meeting over to you.
Thank you, President Matthews, and I think we have some staff who are here with us tonight, so I'll let you make your way to the podium. Those of you who are going to talk about this employee, come on up, and I'll let you all introduce yourselves, but this is really, not only is it a huge celebration of one of our classified employees, but this this is a success story of District 6 because Andrea is a former District 6 student, and we were able to keep her in this pipeline. And we look forward to her having a long and successful career here in District 6. So Julie, is this you? Who am I?
Just want to say thank you for having us today. My name is.
Yeah, come on up to the podium.
Thank you for having us today. My name is Sasha Cahoon. I'm the Classified Council President and Office Manager at Greeley West High School.
Thanks, Sasha.
And I'm Linda Rula, Co-Vice President of the Classified Council.
I'm Julie Lewis. I'm the Facilities Specialist for the school district as well as Co-Vice President with Linda Rula.
This year, we had 84 nominations for 71 different people at 27 different sites for the Outstanding Classified Employee of the Year. With this year being different from any other year, thank you so much, COVID, it was amazing to see so many nominations. This year, we had a small committee of 7 from the Classified Council that read through the anonymous nominations and narrowed them down to 5. And then as a full team of Classified Council members, we read through the 5 nominations and did an anonymous vote, which led us to our winner. That is what her submitted form said.
Andrea is one of the hardest, this is what the person submitted for us to pick her, nominate her. Andrea is one of the hardest working, most dedicated employees in our district. Andrea came to our school to our district as a high school newcomer from Guatemala. She did not speak any English. She arrived at 9th grade at Greeley West High School. She now is fluent and literate in 3 languages, is a respected member of the team, and is a valuable resource for parents, teachers, and administrators. During the pandemic, Andrea has helped many families access online education. She has also recovered many students who have disappeared and schools could not contact them. Andrea not only found them, but convinced them to engage in school. Andrea is also a go-to for the teachers who are struggling to help students who are online or high school students in remote days. She receives many emails and calls each day from the teachers and the principals who need her help. She is immediately responsive to their needs. During WIDA testing, Andrea personally called hundreds of families to bring their students for testing and assisted with the daily check-in of students for testing. She is an inaugural part of our team, and even though her time in District 6 as an employee has been short, her contribution has been huge. Andrea is an example of the ideal employee, and I am honored to work, honored to work with her. So, thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Just a bit more about our winner. She was born and raised in Guatemala, as the nomination letter said, and came to the United States when she was 14 years old back in 2011. She came to the United States without being able to speak the English language, and now she's able to speak 3 languages: Quiche, which is her native language, Spanish, and English. In May of 2020, she graduated from the University of Northern Colorado and got her degree in Human Services with a minor in Spanish. She's also a former Greeley West grad, yay. And even then, you could see the incredible amount of dedication to her schoolwork and extracurricular activities. It is without a doubt that her dedication and commitment has continued to her career here in District 6 as a secondary CLD newcomer advocate. Congratulations, Andrea Lopez Soon, our 2020-2021 Outstanding Classified Employee of the Year.
Thank you so much.
And Andrea, you and your family are certainly welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, but you also are welcome to be dismissed at this time, if you so choose. Congratulations again from all of us in the district. We have so many great and incredible classified employees, and so it is quite the honor to be recognized out of all of them.
President Matthews, I think this is the most number of people we've had at a school board meeting in a year. And so, Andre, you're quite the celebrity, obviously, and also have quite the support network here. So thank you to all of you for being here tonight to celebrate with Andrea.
Our next item is also recognition, and this is the Greeley Education Association Starfish Award. And so I'd like to invite Ms. Andy Lee, our GEA president, to the podium.
Hello, President Matthews, Board of Education, Dr. Pilch. Once again, this is one of my favorite parts of my job. I'm honoring somebody who is invisible tonight. His name is Tom Frazier. He is one of your teachers at Central, and the reason why he's invisible is because he's actually coaching a soccer game right now. His son is at a soccer game, and it was rescheduled from Snowmageddon. So he apologizes for not being able to be here tonight, but I wanted to brag on him a little bit, and then I'll present this award to him in person tomorrow. But Tom is an amazing educator, and we are so lucky to have him at District 6 and at Central. And he's been a great advocate for being in person, and he always goes above and beyond. So let me tell you a little bit about how I know Tom. I never actually attended a class of Tom's. I attended a Saturday session of AP Language Arts. And in that Saturday session, there were about 20 other students along with me, and we were socially distanced. It was on a Saturday from 8 to 11, and they signed in, and they attended 2 sessions. And he had 2 1.5-hour sessions of AP Language Arts to help our students adjust for that learning gap that occurred over this year. And so we learned about ethos, pathos, and logos, and how we really shouldn't even be using those words because most of us use them incorrectly, myself included. And we talked about how to read a text and analyze it. We talked about how to create a main idea and do some critical thinking and critical paragraphs. We also talked about how to start grading and prepping our own work, and how sometimes using larger words isn't necessarily meaning that you're a better writer. And that was the takeaway I took. So most of the time, I tend to use words that I barely know how to pronounce, and sometimes use incorrectly. And that's not really the point. Learning isn't the fact that you can use large words. Learning is critical thinking, and that's what we're doing at District 6. We are teaching our students to think critically. We are preparing our students to take the AP's exams, and we're doing it in a pandemic. And these are students who dedicated their Saturdays, and teachers and educators who dedicated their weekends in order to do this. And I thought originally, you know, how hard can it be when you have students online and you wander around and you monitor a computer? That's not what's happening. This is a full-on, prepared, lesson plan taught class. It happens on a volunteer basis for the students, and it happens every Saturday. And it is really amazing to see. So I wanted to share with you, I wanted to honor Tom, and I wanted to honor the fact that even during a pandemic, our educators are going above and beyond to help our students be prepared for their career and their college readiness, which is one of our goals in I-2030. So congratulations, Tom. I hope he does well at his soccer game, and I can't wait to present this to him tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Ms. Pappas.
Thank you, Ms. Lee, for sharing that information with us about Tom. But I just wanted to share that also at the student rep meetings that we have been attending, the students are so grateful to have these opportunities to have this test prep. And so I just wanted to give another shout out for the fact that teachers are providing that, and it's so important for our students. So thank you for sharing information with us tonight.
Ms. Lee, I would just add, thanks to you for finding people who are doing an incredible job in our school district. And I know that's not hard to do. We have so many to choose from, but I will echo, my son's had Tom Frazier in the classroom and on the soccer field, and he is the first person there at Central. If he's not the first, he's one of the first people in that building every day, and just does a fantastic job in teaching, writing. My son can write, and I am, and write well, and I'm very appreciative of all of his labors in making that happen. So, kudos to Mr. Frazier. Our next item is our Innovation 2020 update. It's Student Learning and Achievement Priority 1, Personalized Learning. So, Dr. Pilch, I will give this to you.
Thank you, President Matthews. I'll just remind you that we are winding down our updates on Innovation 2020 as we begin to launch Innovation 2030, which we're close to launching and will in the next several months. But this is the update tonight on our personalized learning. You all used to know of this as the blended learning update, but it's become so much more than blended learning. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over to Dr. Stacy Dattery, our Assistant Superintendent of Academic Achievement, and Mr. Dagan Andrews.
Thank you, Dr. Pilch, President Matthews, and members of the board. It is with pleasure that we share with you this update tonight. There's a lot that has gone on in this area, as we well know, given our school year, and it is just building on all the prior work that we've been implementing, that we've been being thoughtful about in this district. And so it's our pleasure to be able to share with you those updates tonight. Just knowing that it is our mission and our vision to ensure that we engage every student in a personalized, well-rounded and excellent education, preparing our students to be college and career ready. And knowing that personalized aspect is a part of the mission of our district is inspiring and well-intentioned. And so we also think then, as far as our values, the three that really is, as Mr. Andrews and I prepared this for you for this evening, said all of these value statements are of importance, but these three really stand out, knowing that every child can achieve. And so oftentimes it's the things that we put in front of them that will ensure that achievement, and in the way of the aspects of digital content and the way in which we deliver instruction, and that we really are promoting then and ensuring that access, opportunity, and choice for our students, and that in this work we commit to excellence, innovation, and continuous improvement. It's ongoing work, as you will see in the update. While all four of these are certainly the goals of Innovation 2020, tonight we are really focusing on student learning and achievement. Priority 1, which is to provide a personalized learning experience for all students. And in that priority area, we have two outcomes identified. The first is by 2023, 75% of classrooms will be proficient in their implementation of blended learning. And by 2023, 95% of students in grades 2 through 12 will have a district-approved personalized learning plan. Now, both of those we will share with you updates tonight and the progress that we've made toward those outcome measures. And the objectives are on this slide. There's three main objectives in this priority area. The first is about defining and then implementing that personalized learning plan for students. The second is really in regards to the development and implementation of a proficiency-based system. And then the third is about the resources. What are the resources that it will take to ensure that every educator has the skills that they need to support our students in these personalized learning experiences? And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dagan Andrews, who's really going to go into these actions that we've taken thus far, outcome measures, and then our recommendations as we further this work in Innovation 2030. So thank you, Dagan.
Thank you, Dr. Dattery. Well, what a year. What a year it's been. This has been a year where we've seen incredible innovation and increased level of comfort with digital tools. And it probably doesn't come as a surprise that some practices have also proven to be challenging under health conditions and restrictions. I will begin by sharing with you the actions we have taken this year to advance this priority area. Actions taken have been developing courses in Schoology, deploying one device for every student, and focusing our digital content implementations. Our initial action involved the development of courses in our learning management system called Schoology. This ensured our students would have anytime, anywhere access to their core instructional resources, no matter the circumstances the school year might bring. Although this may have always been our intention, the circumstances entering this year made it a necessity. The resources involved in making this a reality were significant. Over 100 educators created more than 120 courses in Schoology and more than 40,000 pages of teacher guides. Access to base courses for teachers in Schoology provide a solid core while affording the opportunity to customize content based on students' interests and needs. We have also been consistently moving toward a device for each student, and this year we've achieved that mark. Every student now has a Chromebook that travels with them to access learning both at school and at home. To make certain students are able to access the internet with their device, along with our technology department, we have worked in partnership with T-Mobile and Comcast to provide high-speed internet for families that lacked connectivity. This has essentially eliminated the digital divide in our community and represents an incredible leap forward in providing equity and access to all of our learners beyond the walls of our classrooms. Making all of this a possibility has been a result of the incredible work of our technology department in partnership with our schools to identify needs and to deploy resources. Additionally, we focused our selection of digital content. By focusing on one high-quality resource for math and one for literacy, we are becoming more organizationally effective and efficient. We are more effective by ensuring every educator receives the necessary support to use the tools to better provide students with what they need when they need it. It is also more efficient because all of our coaches and teachers are using the same tools across the system, simplifying training and our ability to onboard new teachers. The focused tools and unique circumstances of this year has also created conditions that have supported our teachers in developing a deeper understanding of how to leverage digital tools to further student learning. This leads us to our first outcome measure. Steady progress has been made toward 95% of students having a personalized learning plan. Over the past 4 years, we've increased the percentage of students with district-approved plans from 62% to 83%. Although this year we haven't been able to make further progress, we have been able to maintain our previous year's gains to stay on track to meet our goal by 2023. We will have data for the percentage of students that have personalized learning plan for the 2020-2021 academic year following the completion of this school year. With these numbers in mind, the next slide focuses our attention on the depth of our blended learning implementations. In order to measure quality, we measure teacher proficiency in 4 key elements of blended learning, including targeted small group instruction, student ownership, tight feedback loops, and quality student-to-student interactions. In this area, we are also on our way to achieving our goal of 75% of classrooms demonstrating proficient use of blended learning by 2023. Over the past 4 years, we've moved from 25% of our classrooms demonstrating proficiency to 48% last year. This year, we fell slightly to 46%. But teachers indicated these areas of quality student-to-student interactions and targeted small group instruction were particularly challenging due to health restrictions. It is in these 2 areas that caused our proficiency with blended learning to dip slightly. While other 2 areas of student ownership and tight feedback loops maintained or increased. We are confident that as we return to less restrictive classroom environments, that these areas will significantly improve. And these skills are also going to be critical in achieving our recommendations for Innovation 2030. With this working knowledge, we have recommendations, as I said before, for Innovation 2030. In order for a personalized learning plan to be fully realized, we need a system to consolidate these plans into one digital platform. We will engage in a system of continuous improvement to leverage our base Schoology courses to improve the quality of our blended learning implementations, while continuing to analyze supplemental resources to increase our students' sense of belonging. Our focus will be to incorporate resources that reflect the lived experiences of our students. Teachers now have an understanding of how they can better meet the needs of students using digital tools. With this understanding, they can even be more targeted with each student, having access to an electronic device to target instruction, to meet the goals jointly constructed in a student's personalized learning plan, and ensure students have access to learning at home. Dr. Dattery and I appreciate this opportunity to provide our update on our current actions, updated outcome data, and recommendations for our I-2030 strategic plan. And at this point, we'd just like to say thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you both. I imagine you might have some questions from board members, and I think you do. So, Ms. Pappas?
I don't know if you can or if it's appropriate right now, but I'm just curious if you could just give us a short little example of what a personalized learning plan would look like.
So when we think about a personalized learning plan, what we would think about are what are students' needs, what are their interests, what are their current academic levels of achievement, and then what are the kinds of supports in a plan to think about how we bring that to life, and also include what are a student's career or college aspirations and aspirations that they would like to achieve. And then that plan becomes a way for teachers to really know their students, know where they're performing as soon as they walk in the door, and then help support them to whatever they choose to do when they leave our doors.
And then thank you for that. And then are students involved in that ongoing progress monitoring of their plan with an identified adult or teacher?
Absolutely. And so as we start thinking about this and we're building those systems and working with our action teams to define what that actually looks like in terms of how do we make those plans come to life so that it does become a part of the students' academic world and the way that they're going about learning, and that they feel like they have that significant adult to help them along the way.
Thank you.
Mr. Talley?
Thank you for all that information. I have two questions. One's right along the lines with the personalized learning plan. Is there a difference between that and an IEP, or can an IEP work for the personalized learning plan?
Yeah. And so when we think about this, the personalized learning plan would have all those pieces, a student's IEP and ICAP. So all those pieces would be put together into the same personalized learning plan. So we have that holistic view of a student and what their goals are and where they're going.
Okay. And then my next question, thank you for that. My next question is.
So Mr. Tully, I'll just add, because I'm not sure it was completely clear, but it might have been. So the IEP, a student who has an IEP has their personalized learning plan. Right. That is their personalized learning plan.
Okay, so the IEP does work as the personalized learning plan.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's a beautiful, extensive personalized learning plan. If we had the staff and resources to do that for every student, that would be ideally what you would do.
Okay, that's awesome. What about the, I know I said I had two, but now that popped another question in my head. Does the personalized learning plan take into account if they have, like behavior plans, or is that all live in that personalized learning plan as well?
Yes, it does. And one of the ideas is just that there is one plan that all students have. And in the case of an individual education plan, that really is one and the same. Because it is a holistic approach already. Other plans are parts and pieces of what a child might need to be successful. And so those plans will be incorporated into a more comprehensive, personalized plan that every student will now be engaging in across the district. So yes, in the example you gave with the behavior plan, that would just be a part of where one child might have that, another child might not. and that's okay. That's the individual part of this and how it is personalized in that way, yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
How often is progress monitored, or is that a yearly thing?
No, that's really one of the things that Mr. Andrews was speaking to, and that part of what we have to determine, and as you think about on the heels of what Ms. Pappas spoke to, is in each school identifying what will that process look like? Who is that adult who is going to continue to monitor that? So whereas in an individual education plan it's annually reviewed, it is still an ongoing living document that a child has, we have a case manager or a teacher that is monitoring and following that and making sure students are living up to the goals that are outlined in that plan. And much the same will happen for every student in that personalized learning plan. But how that looks and how often is really part of what we need to determine, and that each school will be able to take that on and say, all right, how does that look in this school with our resources? Elementary will look a little different with a homeroom teacher than it might at a middle level, at a high school. And it is much like what we have at our summit programs in our middle schools, where every teacher has a group of students that they shepherd through their, what they call an advisement period. And so those are just some examples of what that can look like, and that's really part of the work. Dr. Pilch, did you want to add to that?
I'm okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No, great job.
And then my last question, just sort of because I'm curious and it's kind of a fun question, is how did you decide that 95% of the students will have a personalized learning plan rather than 100%?
That honestly was the work of our action teams, that when we put together I-2020, really saying that we did not have, what's attainable, what's achievable, how might we know across the system that every student has that plan. And so I would really say the goal is that 100% will, knowing that if we really were to get 95% in any one year, and given mobility and movement of students, that is achievable. And our, that stretch goal will be to get to that 100% certainly. And so those are even conversations that we'll have in terms of within Innovation 2030, what does that look like in this next iteration? And how do we continue to build on that? Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I think Dr. Dowdering mentioned the mobility. I mean, that's the biggest factor, and that's what we learned with trying to get to this 100% of classroom teachers proficient with blended learning, is when you have people moving, you're never going to be at 100%. And so that's the barrier here of getting to that 100%, is children moving in at different times of the year and just taking that time to develop the plan and those pieces.
Ms. Elise?
So Dagan and Stacy and blended learning. It's so hard to imagine where we were when we first had this conversation and then now. So just thank you for your continued efforts. Thank goodness we were having this conversation, because this really prepped us for something we had no idea we were going to have to, be prepared for. So thank you, Dagan, for all of your hard work in this. I know that it's been a lot. And, as a school board member, and I just remember these beginning conversations. And so you guys have just done an amazing job getting us where we are. I did love seeing that part about ensuring supplemental resources are provided that reflect students' lived experiences, that really acknowledges the different types of students that we have, and that they come from so many different areas, whether it's a refugee camp or, a migrant family, or even like the young lady that was here from Guatemala. So I really appreciate you being conscious of that. The question I had is kind of where in this plan initially and then in the ongoing steps is the parent involved?
That's a great question. Do you want to answer that, or?
I think that, I guess where I would go with that is what the action teams are thinking about, but knowing that is a critical component of having family input into what that plan ultimately looks like.
Because I just reviewed this document over the weekend that the steering committee has been finalizing, family and parent are in there as a part of a partner in the building of these plans. The other piece that's in there that I think they referenced, but I want to really be clear about, is building a way that every student has a mentor or a homeroom teacher, an advisor, and we don't currently have that K-12, and so that's the system we're going to have to build in the coming months and years to be able to fully implement this. The other thing, and I haven't mentioned this to the team yet, but as we look at this ESSER 3 funding that's coming our way from the federal government because of learning loss, I think there's some opportunity with those dollars to front load some of this work around personalized learning plans, because to really be able to have a personalized learning plan for every student, we're going to have to know what their learning loss might or might not have been as a part of this pandemic. So I do think we will actually have some resources that we can leverage to really put some additional energy into this here on the front end that we might not have been able to do had we not had a pandemic. Is Megan nodding her head yes? Let's hope she is.
So yeah, just reiterating that parent part. I know I've said this story before, but my daughter had an IEP, and I just felt like such a part of her education as a parent, where I didn't have that with my son. I didn't feel like I had that with my son. So just making sure that we are conscious and keeping them in the loop. And, I think there's a lot of parents that, don't fully understand the education system, especially here, especially if they weren't raised here or born here. And so really bringing them in and making them feel like they're part of it and how they can help and really feel like they're part of that decision making and that encouragement team for their child, I think is really, really imperative. Thank you.
Ms. Pappas?
So on a different note, I know you've worked really hard, a lot of people have worked really hard to make sure that all of our kids, especially when everyone was remote learning, had access to internet and wireless. Do we still have issues with certain places, or if we were to go to remote learning tomorrow again, how are we?
We still have issues, Ms. Pappas. I mean, I won't put them on the spot. I'll just take it. There are still issues. I mean, we have worked tirelessly on this. Our staff has. We continue to deploy hotspots as needed. We continue to provide scholarships with Comcast, but there are just some areas where wireless does not work and there is no broadband internet or any kind of internet access. So it is a very small percentage of our families, but that is still a reality. I mean, there's some places that just do not have internet capability.
So this is just a bigger picture, a bigger issue than District 6 providing.
It is. It absolutely is.
Thank you.
I mean, where even if we pay for it, there's no way to run internet to the home. There's some situations like that we've uncovered.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Not seeing any other questions. I've got a couple myself. How do we determine when a classroom is proficient in the implementation of blended learning? What's the measure that we use for that?
Yeah, so we use it's called our innovation configuration. What it does is it shows our 4 key elements, like we talked about: tight feedback loops, quality student-to-student interaction, student ownership, and targeted small group instruction. And so what we look at is across those 4 domains and rising to a level 3 in those 4 domains to be considered proficient in implementation.
Okay. Thank you. And another question, we're at 1-to-1 devices now. That is a product of the MLO primarily that we passed in 17. But I can't remember, where were we before we passed that MLO in 2017? We were 1-to-2 or 1-to-3?
I think we were 1-to-3, and then we were close to 1-to-2 in, after we passed that first mill levy override, and we're able to infuse that first bulk of devices that we infused. Particularly once we infused those at the high school level, that was hundreds of devices. So I believe we got to about 1-to-2 as an average across the system at that point. But we're truly 1-to-1, and people are still thanking us, staff are still thanking us for the new devices. So we continue to refresh and replace old devices.
Well, I would just want to say thank you one more time to the voters that passed that MLO. I mean, I can't imagine where we would be in this pandemic had that not passed in 2017. It's just been so critical. And I know it's been quite a year, have been quite a year for you guys and all the implementation of blended learning that we've done in the last year. And so I just want to thank you, Deegan, especially for all the work that you put in the last year. I'm sure it can't be can't have been easy. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks,
too, Stacey.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Our next item is a second read of 2021-2022 school year calendar. Because this is a second read, we will need a motion for this one.
I move that the Board of Education of Greeley Evans School District 6 approves the 2021-2022 school year calendar as presented.
Second.
Thank you both. Before we go any further, Dr. Pilch, are there any updates that you have since our last, we looked at this 2 weeks ago?
No, there are, President Matthews. So I had an opportunity to meet with President Matthews and Vice President Pappas during agenda setting here, planning for the meeting. And what I presented to them, and I will present to you tonight, is that a calendar that pulls out any recommendation around early release or late start. So what we're presenting you tonight is the calendar as you saw it, without having a recommendation on early release or a late start, and whether that's a Monday or a Wednesday or not at all. And then what I've asked the team to do is to go back, expand the team somewhat, get more feedback, and really look at what is the right fit for District 6. Early release, late start. Do we need to be the same K-12? Could it look differently at different levels? What's the best day of the week to do this? And to continue to gather input and work on that piece. So we will bring some more information back to you at our work session in April, where we're sharing with you what we would be recommending at that time regarding if and when and how we do an early release or a late start. So what we're asking you tonight is to just consider the calendar proposal that you saw last time. So I guess I would ask you, President Matthews, is it necessary for Mrs. Overton to go through that presentation again of that calendar? Or she's certainly prepared to do that, but we haven't changed the actual calendar from what we presented to you last time. What we've pulled out is any kind of a late start or early release.
I don't think it's necessary to go through that again, though if Ms. Overton, if you would remain at the podium for just a moment and see if we have any questions from board members about
She'll be
that.
so disappointed because she was practicing today, but yeah. So ask her some really hard questions, please.
Any questions from board members? Ms. Solis?
I don't have any questions, hard questions, sorry. But I just want to thank you for pulling that part and getting more feedback on the early release or starting late. That was kind of a big question for us that we kind of talked about, and I can only imagine for parents that would be a big conversation. So thank you for doing that.
You bet. Thank you.
Ms. Pappas?
I appreciate that as well, and appreciate the work that all of you went into the calendar. And I'm just confirming or clarifying that the calendar that you presented to us is very similar to the calendar that we have right now.
Yes, it is.
So there aren't any big significant changes with that.
That's correct.
Annette, would you please though remind them of the big changes, what we did with PD days?
Yes.
And pulling those out. So can you just share that piece of what we did with that?
Sure. We did make 3 changes this year, or on this calendar since the one that you saw us from before. And that is the date from, I'm trying to come back to this. Let's see where we put that. We did move the calendar from the October 8th, which is the day that is part of the count window. We moved that to a Monday. And so then that PD day from Monday moved to Tuesday. So that's one thing that we moved. We tried to, we were successful at moving anything that impacted students' learning throughout the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We moved those to Monday so that everything sits on a Monday so that it has the least amount of impact on student instruction. We did move March 25th. We moved that day to the 28th, which is the PD day that we do the most around testing. And then we also moved April 29th. We moved that day from Friday, that holiday. It's not a PD day, but a holiday. We moved that to Monday, the 25th. Okay, so those are the kind of the 3 little subtle changes that we moved just from Fridays to Mondays, and then to protect the count window as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Overton. And part of doing that is if we do end up doing an early release or a late start on Mondays, we wanted all of those days that kids were already off to be on that same day where we would normally have done that. So we weren't impacting families sometimes, a couple times in a week.
And it does provide some consistency, which is what I remember hearing from you about families. If everything they can remember that is on a Monday, then they can focus their energies around that Monday protection and knowing that students will be out on that Monday, any Monday.
Mr. Talley.
Thank you for all your hard work with this, you and your team. It's amazing. And at the same time, what is the reasoning for us to have to approve this calendar tonight if we don't have all the answers yet?
So the biggest reason to approve the calendar is because folks are asking us for a calendar so they can make plans for next year. I mean, that's the biggest reason. To be frank, the early release or late start is actually a school schedule. It actually doesn't require board approval. And so we can go ahead and approve our calendar without the board taking action on our early release or late start. So what I'll be looking to do with you all in April in the work session is to reach consensus around if we have a recommendation coming forward for an early release or late start. I'd be working with you all to reach consensus rather than bringing it to the board table for an action item. But the board is required to take action on the calendar for the following school year.
Thank you. In light of transparency for our community members, I just have a hard time approving a calendar if we don't have all the answers yet for parents, especially working parents, to look at for the following year. So is it out of the question to table this until we have those answers?
Well, I think you'd be looking at a May approval on the calendar if you table it. And our chief of communications is shaking her head, very worried about that. So, but I think that's what you'd be looking for. So I want to just be clear. What you are approving tonight, if you approve it, is the calendar year. So where the holidays are, where the professional development days are, when school starts, when school ends. What we have pulled off the mix of the calendar is if there would be an early release or a late start anywhere in the calendar.
It's my recollection, just to add, having served on the calendar committee, that early release and late starts were never actually depicted on the calendar itself. Those were things that came out from the schools. So I'm not sure that it matters if they don't know those particular times for calendar. I'm a little loath to table it because families start planning way ahead for a lot of things, especially in light of pandemic coming to a possible end and people wanting to plan vacations. So there's already, I'm sure, parents chomping at the bit to think about how late in August they can plan their summer vacation. So I would not really want to table it myself because the calendar is the calendar. It doesn't really matter if they're doing an early release or a late start because it's never going to show up on the calendar. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I appreciate, thank you. I've never sat on this committee for calendar. I'm usually just a parent that gets it in an email and hangs it on my fridge. So I appreciate those comments. Thank you for clarifying.
Are there any other questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Overton. Again, I don't know how you can manage that. I don't even think you can manage to make the entire Matthews house happy with a calendar. And so I can't imagine taking that on for the entire district. So thank you very much.
There are two great chairs right here, co-chairs.
Ms. Green, will you give us a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Mash?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Mueller?
Aye.
Ms. Pappas?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Our next item is sale of land, and this is also an action item that needs a motion.
I move that the Board of Education of Greeley Evans School District 6 approves the purchase and sale agreement as presented and authorize Chief Financial Officer Megan Sponsler to sign related documents on behalf of the Board of Education.
Second.
Thank you both. Dr. Filch, I will let you give us introductory remarks before we open this up for questions from board members.
Thank you, President Matthews. So this land sale entails the sale of 37.498 acres adjacent to the new Toynton Pre-Engineering Academy on the Boomerang site. We do not have use for this acreage. It's acreage that abuts the new part of the golf course and is behind the school. And it is zoned residential. We do have a contract, should you approve it tonight, with WGLI LLC, which is an affiliate of Waltel Companies Incorporated. That contract purchases that land from the school district for $27,144 per acre for a total sale of $1,017,846. It's my recommendation that our Board of Education approve this contract. It's fair market value, and it does help us to recoup some of the costs that we have already incurred in the development of this property.
Thank you, Dr. Pilch. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Ms. Solis.
So I definitely recognize that that area is zoned for residential, and I mean, this really helps the district when it comes to, planning for the future as far as water and things like that. That can definitely be a benefit for us. And I appreciate that the school district is very conscious about making sure that all schools reflect our community, and that we will continue to do that as we move forward with the Toynton School.
Any other questions or comments? I can only say I think this is a win-win for our district, and so happy to approve this sale of land. We've bought land, we've traded land, and now we're selling a piece of that. And financially, it just seems like the most responsible thing that we can do with taxpayer money. So thank you, Dr. Pilch, for bringing this to us. Ms. Creighton, will you give us a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Mash?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Mueller?
Aye.
Ms. Pappas?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Creighton. Our next item is our communication or comments from the community on non-agenda items, and we had someone signed up, but it doesn't look like that they're here. So that is the last item. I'll just close with this tonight. Mr. Hafley is not here, but I know he would want me to extend best wishes to Greeley Central alum Tad Boyle and the Colorado Buffaloes as they're in the NCAA tournament and playing, I think, right now. So I'll go home and watch that. This meeting is adjourned.